the Shen and Shan Show, where Shenice, my mom,
and Shan the Pam
interview with LGBTQ plus professionals and entrepreneurs.
So let's get giddy and start the show.
Alrighty, guys. Today, on this episode, is it episode 6?
We haven't decided on that.
Oh, okay. Well, we have a good friend of mine I've known since college, Tiffany Jackson. And Tiff, say hi.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Hey. So Tiffany is our guest today on the Shen and Shan Show, and we're going to dive into her life, all her deepest, darkest secrets, all the things that she wants to help our community out by, having this conversation today. So how do y'all know each other?
From college, Sam Houston State University. Eat 'em up. Come on, Tiff, you got to do it with me.
Cats.
With the cat.
No pun intended,
Okay, Shan.
It's a joke we used to do in college, for lesbians,
Oh,
so.
gosh. Okay. Well, let's get, so y'all met in college in a class?
No, actually, what did we call it, on the yard?
Yeah, like on the quad, just hanging out. I don't think we even had a single class together.
No, we didn't. I was a kinesiology major, and you were criminal justice?
Mass comm.
Yeah. So Tiffany, so how I spotted Tiffany was actually my best friend at the time. We were walking, and Tiffany is really tall. She's like 6'3". Yeah. And it was like, oh, another gay person. You know how you get when you're at school, you get excited.
How would you know that she was gay when you saw her, though? Like, how would you distinguish that? You assume.
No, it's just the crowd she was hanging out with, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, you kind of
Okay.
know. And so,
Yeah.
and when she started talking to me and my best friend at the time, we were just amazed because she has a really soft voice. But to see someone that tall, we have our judgments, and we wasn't expected that. So we both just kind of like looked up at her because I'm only 5'3", and it was like, wow, I wasn't expecting your voice to be like that. So I don't know how to take it at the time, but yeah, that's how we met, and we just been cool ever since.
I remember your friend was extremely shocked because she literally, y'all were like asking for directions on how to get to either residence life or something, and her whole face just went blank. She's like, is that your real voice? Is that your real voice? Like,
So you got that a lot.
yeah. I was like,
So what do people expect your voice to be like?
I don't know. That's what's so strange, because like, if you have someone, you don't know if they're gonna have like, a Nigerian accent, a British accent, a deep voice, like, well, I don't know. But apparently my voice was always a surprise.
Okay, well, Tiffany, please introduce yourself and give us a little background on, your life story, who you are, how you were raised, anything you want to give us from childhood to date. Tell us all about you.
Sure. Okay, so Tiffany Jackson, native Texan. I was born in Beaumont, Texas, which is just west of the Louisiana border. So lived with my grandmother in Silsbee, which is like less than 10 miles from there, about up until age 10. When I was right at 10, I went to Houston for a few years, then came back and lived in Beaumont, probably from around age 12 to 16. And then went back to Houston up until the time I started college. Yeah.
So you bounced around a lot as a child?
I did. I didn't really grow up with my mom. I grew up with my grandmother, and she was older than 70 years old whenever I was born.
Oh, wow.
So by the time I was 9, 10, 11, she was getting up there. So I went to live with my cousin. I have a cousin that lives in Houston that's an engineer. We're about 17, 18 years apart. So when I was 10, she was like almost 30. And
Wow.
so
Yeah,
she
yeah.
was not married yet. She didn't have any kids. So she took me in and I lived with her on and off. And then when she got, she, at the time, she had just gotten her bachelor's from UT, who, and was working as an engineer, but she decided to get her master's and PhD. So whenever that time happened, I went to live with my grandmother. She got sick, went into a nursing home, and then I went to live in a girls' home called Girls Haven in Beaumont, which is basically like a group home for teenage girls.
Okay. And how was that experience for you?
It was
Explain to
interesting.
me how do people wind up in group girls' homes? Like, give me maybe a couple different stories of girls that you were in there with, and what is it like to be there?
Sure. So at that time, there were, I guess, two main reasons people ended up or found themselves at Girls Haven. That was one, because they didn't have anyone to take care of them, which was my situation. Or, they had someone to take care of them, but they had a very unstable home environment, maybe abuse, things of that nature. The other one, number two, was girls that may have had a loving environment, but they were troublemakers. They were involved with sex, they were involved with drugs, they were involved in just crime. And so their parents put them in Girls Haven as kind of a scared straight situation. But the majority of people is because they didn't have a stable home environment.
So Girls Haven, is that a foster home, or is this is completely different?
So that's a good question. It's completely different. So a lot of the stuff that Texas foster youth get, like free college and I don't know what else they get, but those types of benefits, I did not get, and I'm sure a lot of the girls didn't get, because if you were in a foster home, or I guess there's something, well, there's another category too, I can't think of what it's called, but if you're in a foster home, you're actually a ward of the state. The state of Texas has custody of you, and for the most part, everyone that I am speaking of, like their parents still had custody of them. They actually okayed them or actually moved them into this place like you would move them into a dorm. Like CPS didn't take them away and put them there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So going through that experience, do you think that's kind of what helped shape you to, be so successful now?
Yes, I do think in some aspects it did, because I had very close relationships with a lot of the people that were on our board of directors. This is my cat, Pumpkin Spice. He's very
Pumpkin Spice?
Yes.
Oh, Pumpkin Spice.
He's way more of a people cat than most cats are.
Oh, that's nice.
So he's going to be here, it looks like. So I had a close relationship with a lot of the people on our board of directors. And so those were attorneys, those are physicians.
And it's the board of directors for?
For Girls Haven.
Oh,
so
okay.
There are people that made a lot of the managing decisions as far as hiring house parents and overseeing the budget and our activities, fundraising, and things of that nature. So that gave me the opportunity to learn about a lot of different careers and just interact with people in a different social stratus than my grandmother, because she was just like old people, and I don't think we really knew any professionals except for my cousin and her parents. So that definitely gave me the opportunity to see the world in a different way as far as possibilities. And hopefully I'll talk more about that when I discuss, like, I have siblings that weren't living with me or that weren't in Girls Haven, so they didn't really have those opportunities. I think that makes an effect on those things. Also, another thing that was really helpful is our executive director, so we went to an Episcopal church. A lot of times, depending on the faith of the house parent that was working that Sunday or whatever weekend, we would go to whatever the church was. But at one point, we got an executive director who was Episcopalian, so we started going to that church. Episcopalian is kind of like Catholicism, but not that strict, but it's not. There's like a process for each sermon. I like it because it's very predictable. But they had the opportunity for me to take an admissions test to go to an elite boarding school, a college prep school here in Austin, which I did. And so that experience in itself was invaluable in that it gave me a lot of opportunities to experience the world in a different way.
Okay, so you went to boarding school in Austin, and then what happened?
I came to boarding school here in Austin for one school year, and so I literally started August, like mid-August in 2001. So September 11th happened shortly thereafter. So a lot of the donors and stuff. So this school today, it's $65,000 a year to attend as a boarder. I think back then it was maybe half to 2/3 that. It was very expensive, and so Girls Haven wasn't able to underwrite that on their own. We had a lot of help from people from our parish and just friends. But I think with everything that happened with September 11th, that affected the donations. So after that year, I came to Houston and went to Westside High School.
Side.
Yeah.
Okay, and then just fast forward us to what you're doing now. What's your career right now?
So right now, I am working as an epidemiologist for the state of Texas. Basically, I study trends in infectious disease. And in this case, of course, the infectious disease of the hour is COVID-19. So all of my efforts are focused towards that, and specific how it affects employees and offenders housed in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, Texas prison population.
Okay, so you're an epidemiologist. I'm not even sure if I knew what that word was before COVID-19. So how did you choose that career?
Well, I kind of know, Tiffany, kind of start off from, because you told us that you started off with mass communication as a major in college. So how did you go from mass communication to epidemiologist?
So I've always had an interest in health from the time I was very young, and I always wanted to be a physician. My concern and my advisor's concern and people in my life at that time were, because I bounced around so much, I think I went to, when I last counted, it was like 14 different schools between kindergarten and 12th grade, that it would be difficult for me to major in biochemistry or biology and handle the prereqs to go into medical school. So my advisor at that time, for some reason, Shen State didn't have a pre-law track. So I decided, definitely I knew that I wanted to go into graduate school because I wasn't sure what opportunities there would be if I did just a bachelor's. So instead of going to medical school, I went to law school and did like a bioethics track for like medical malpractice defense. And it was not the level of medicine that I wanted to have in the environment. I went from Sam Houston, which I don't know what the opposite of an HBCU is. I guess just like a regular school. I went from Sam Houston to Texas Southern University, which is a historically Black college. And it was just not the right vibe for me. So I was like, hey, I don't want to be a lawyer. I really am interested in medicine. So I went back to school. I got my master's in biomedicine and started doing or looking for clinical careers. And this presented itself as a byproduct of COVID-19 happening. So that's kind of my path. Because before that, I just kind of, when I figured out that law school wasn't going to work for me, I worked in the private sector for some investment companies. I worked for a risk and reinsurance company, and even in sales for car dealerships and technical support for BMW. So
it sounds like you have a lot of skills, though. It sounds like it's probably made you or given you a very diverse skill set, because you were in IT, in sales, in law, in the medicine field, medical field. So do you feel like it's made you well-rounded, even though you didn't do a straight shot into medicine? Do you feel pretty well-rounded because of these other jobs and different paths that you had to take in order to get here to epidemiologist?
Yeah, I would say that I would have to have been well-rounded after that experience. And I'm thankful for that because, while I was in grad school, I saw that a lot of people, they just have like this linear path. And that's one thing that some of my mentors and my cousin always told me, like, I always had that vision that, okay, I would just do this, this, and this. And, a lot of my close friends, that we always knew we wanted to be doctors, like they're practicing medicine like right now. And so, that wasn't my path, but it's not to say that there's a lot of things that they don't know or haven't experienced that I have because of the different things that I have. So yes, I do feel like it's definitely helped shape me and it helped make me a more well-rounded individual.
Going through that, and I don't know what the next question you was going to go to, but basically, do you feel like your sexuality ever played a part in not, being successful in any other one of those careers that you actually, worked at?
That's a good question. I would hope not. In fact, and this may have just been just another experience of why I didn't like or wasn't comfortable in the law school that I was at. But I do remember, this just came to me for some reason a few days ago. I was thinking about this. We basically, outside of class, we had like all these professional organizations and meetings that we would attend. This student, I don't remember her name, she was like a few years ahead of me, like a 2L or 3L. You have 1, 2, 3L. She's like, hey, I want you to come to this thing or whatever. And so I came, and I wore like a men's sport coat, and then some pants and some loafers. I mean, I looked nice, and I didn't show up like, like this and like some shorts or whatever. I remember the next day, she came to me after school, and she was livid. She was like, you embarrassed me. I can't believe you showed up to this event in men's clothes. Like, what were you thinking?
Oh, wow.
And all that. Like, yeah. And I was like, I told her, I was like, look, I mean.
And this was a friend? This was a friend?
No, she wasn't my friend. I mean, she was a few years older than me. She just somehow, I think it was like this extracurricular blog group I was in, and she invited me to
it's
something.
part of your network, or?
Yeah, exactly.
And how long ago was this?
Say that again?
How long ago was this?
Oh, wow. This was actually 10 years ago this year. Yeah, I went to law school 2009 to 2010. But that summer I had worked, and I went and bought this sport coat. I think I had saved up and paid like between $400 and $500. And so I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, she's like, it's not the fact of how much you spend or like the niceness, like you look like a man, blah, 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 blah. And so I just remember walking away from that conversation like, wow, like, and I can say, so I don't know if you remember Portia from Sam Houston. Later on, she went to go on to this law school and graduate. But at that time, there were literally no LGBT people. Like, there's one guy, but I feel like there's gay guys everywhere. But other than that, like, there were like no like lesbians. And so, yeah, that was an unfortunate experience. But other than that, that very closed-minded environment of that institution, like, I never really felt discriminated, at least not like in a major way.
And how did that make you feel? Because somebody was so offended that you quote unquote looked like a man.
I felt terrible. Like, I hated that school. Like, it was just not.
It's not inclusive. Just completely closed-minded. Was everybody, in your opinion, pretty closed-minded there?
I hate to say that. I don't want to make such a sweeping generalization, but I mean, that was like the first year of my life of being in school for however many years, 18 years or whatever at that point, that like I didn't really have. I had one friend, and because they always said us according, they talked to us by our last names, so like Miss Jackson or whatever. I had one friend, Miss Huang, and we were next to each other like in the alphabet, so we were next to each other in every class. So other than that, that was like the only person I really hung out with. She was super chill. Yeah, it was really hard to.
For the most part, do you feel like you feared trying to make those connections and friendships or any type of anything in your network because
Um,
of because of that experience or any experience? Were there any other, maybe I should ask, were there any other indicators that this is the way people felt? Because I'm assuming, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, did she react that way because of her own beliefs, or did she possibly get spoken to or asked, who is this that you brought? Why does she look like this? What went through your mind, or what were you able to confirm about this situation?
that wouldn't have surprised me if that were the case, because how can I say this? That was just so I grew up in Houston with my cousin, and we used to go to the church across the street from that school. I don't know if I should say the name, but it's like a Baptist church in that area. And just the prevailing climate there and those type of people was just like really homophobic. So no, it would not surprise me if that's what occurred. As far as confirmation, I didn't really look into it that much. After that, I just, I was mostly hurt, but a little pissed off that she would come to me in that regard. But I really didn't think much into it. But it was a very sad school year. I was very lonely, and that was myself. Like, I made people laugh all the time. Like, I was a class clown, and my professors loved me. And but it just, as far as with the student body, and it just wasn't like.
Yeah, it wasn't cohesive for you. It wasn't a good fit. So, and my next question is, how do people, or what have you done since then to either ensure that you have the right vibes, or you can look for certain indicators to say, maybe I'm on the right path to finding that right environment for me, or being around those people who are not so closed-minded to the LGBTQ community, or they're more aware and accepting? What have you done?
So I really like that question, because everything goes back, I think, to like the first real risk or chance that I took in my life, and that was leaving Girls Haven to move to Austin to go to boarding school at St. Stephen's. And I just remember, like, from the time I had my first campus visit, I think the fall of the previous school year, I just knew, like, there was no question like, oh, maybe I should come back 3 or 4 times and my perception will change. Like, I've learned that if something is a good fit and it's going to work out for me, like, I instantly know. And so
Like, you felt, you was it, you walked through and you didn't get these weird stares, or people were more friendly, or what were some of those things that you could tactically latch on to say, oh my gosh, this place, it feels good? Or is it just an energy? Is it just, what is it?
energy is definitely there, but everyone was so kind. I remember Lawrence Sampleton, he used to play in the NFL and was a big football player for University of Texas. He is in the admissions department. He made me feel very welcome. Martha Black was also very welcoming. And the students, like, when I sat in classes, like, I always had, this is going way back, but I always had trouble. One of the biggest things I had trouble with in school is that I was always like the quickest person in the room, except for math. And so it was really cool to be in this situation where everyone was like me and like-minded. It's not a good feeling to feel like you're the only fish swimming against an entire school of other fish. And I kind of felt like that when I was at Texas Southern. They're just I was the only person that liked the music I liked. I was the only person that liked the stores that I liked, the dress. I mean, it's I used to be a big Brooks Brothers, and well, I still like Brooks Brothers, but a big Abercrombie & Fitch fanatic, and nobody at TSU wore Abercrombie.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Ernie is going to be a model for them.
Yes. It actually was. I stopped that to focus on taking the LSAT and all that, but that was fun. But just finding people, I've learned, at first I would be growing up, I was like, I just want to find opportunities for myself because I felt like there weren't really a lot. And so I was like, well, even if I have, regardless of whether I have things in common with people or not, I want to get this opportunity. But then what I realized is not having anything in common with your cohort just makes things like so much more difficult. It's literally, I think of like this civil rights where like everyone's like going against you or whatever. I mean, just like, why, when there's so many more places where you could be accepted, like why put
Right.
yourself in a situation where nobody wants you there or
I love that because it's exactly what you're saying. There's so many other places that you could be where you can be accepted and you can feel comfortable. So why not seek those out instead of, uh, I guess, being sort of miserable or lonely, these years. I mean, I'm a big advocate for at least trying, right? At least make the efforts to try to overcome what you can. It does make you stronger. It does help you build. You never know what you can find once you start educating, but sometimes that's an uphill or downhill battle. Which one is that? I don't know. But sometimes it's a battle, right? Where you're not necessarily going to win. It's going to take, with those maybe set of people, multiple experiences with this community to either educate them or help them change their mind, right? So, but I would like to dive more into your career. So you chose epidemiology, or did it choose you? How did you select that particular focus?
So okay, I guess it chose me because at the beginning of the year, um, so January 1st of this year, I decided that I definitely didn't want to do sales anymore because I was working 60 hours a week and it was terrible. So I started working for like a healthcare firm as an administrator. They do all of the state provided healthcare, so CHIP, Medicare, and things like that. And
Medicaid.
so, huh?
Medicaid.
No, wait. Yeah, I always get them backwards. It's not the one for old people, Medicaid. Yeah, they administer all that. And that was interesting because I knew after I did all these things, I was like, okay, like I really, my goal is to practice medicine. I want to do something that at least has something to do with healthcare because when I'm meeting with my clients, and they're asking me about my personal interest and we're like building rapport, they're like, well, why are you here doing this? And I was like, I needed a job. Um, so basically, I was doing that, and it was still kind of like talking to people on the phone, and that's not something that I enjoy doing, like even in my personal life. So it wasn't a good fit. And so I started, someone told me, there's like a lot of agencies that you can work with, people that will find you something in your qualification field and what you want to do. And so I found out this agency, met with them or whatever, and then so they
Like
got
a
me.
staffing agency?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I guess like a headhunter is what they call them, but yeah, basically like a staffing agency. And so they told me about a microbiologist position. And I was like, well, I mean, I'm biomedical. I don't really do a lot of histology. Like, I don't know about this. And histology is basically like looking at organisms and different tissues and pathologies like under a microscope. So I assumed that that's what I would be doing every day. And I was like, I mean, I didn't even take a microbiology class. He's like, no, don't worry, it'll be fine. So I was like, okay. So what I was actually doing was handling COVID specimens. I didn't have to look at them, from a histology perspective under a microscope. But basically, people that have this test done, and you have your tube, you break off your swab. The swab is like this long, but only like this much, goes up. And the tube is, not much longer than, or a lot shorter than the swab. So they had to break it off and put it in there. And so basically, I was getting like hundreds of these things. And so I would pull out the form because they have like a little piece of paper that goes in the Ziploc, like on the outside. So you take it out and you make sure that it matches what's in the tube. And basically, you just put it in order to go up to be run through a machine and be tested. And so I worked in a lab. I wore like a white coat, and I was like, "Oh, yay, this is nice, I guess." And the compensation was commensurate with what I would expect with my level of education, which for a long time I felt like I was actually, or I actually was like underemployed, and that was very frustrating. That's why I switched to doing the commission sales because it was really the only thing I could, you know, I mean, not guaranteed because it wasn't guaranteed, but that
Dictate what you get paid, pretty much. Is that what you're saying? Like you can up your compensation by being in
yes,
sales?
Right.
Yeah.
yes, which was great when it worked well, but was not so great when it didn't work well. But yeah, the pay was great, being the microbiologist, but it was still very like an assembly line. There was no thought process, as far as independent and critical thinking. And I was asking all these kids these questions, and most of these people, they were fresh out of college and they were just doing it just to do it. Like they didn't really know a lot about the science of it or whatever. And so like I'm asking these questions and they're like, gee, I don't know, like I don't care. Like, why do you care? Just put
Right.
And then we got one med student that came, and I befriended her, and she was like, "This job sucks." You know that, right? And I was like, "What? Like we work in a lab, we get to wear coats and like PPE." Like, well, no, but like, and she decided that she didn't want to be a doctor, but still, she's like, "This isn't, we could both do better." I was like,
Right. Like not up to your level of, I guess,
Intelligence.
well, not even just intelligence, but I think how are you being fulfilled job wise? How are you being fulfilled for what your wants have been in your career? And is that something that you can see yourself doing long term? Because I think most people, they feel fulfilled when they have an ever evolving role and they're giving something and getting something out of it that is fulfilling to them,
progress.
right? And whereas, a modern day assembly line or maybe a higher level of that, it's just like you're a robot basically, right? And is what it feels like, where most people aren't going to find that fulfilling, right? So would you agree with that? Did you?
Yeah. After about 5 weeks of it, I felt a little sad. And it's funny, I don't know if you guys can see my dogs, but one of them is a very large German Shepherd. About 5 weeks in, I was walking her. I live like blocks from the University of Texas campus. I was walking her, and there's people in caps and gowns because commencement and everything was canceled, but they're still taking their pictures. And she's very feisty. Anyway, she saw there's this group of people walking, following a graduate, and occasionally, she'll get excited and start barking and she'll pull. Well, she saw this lady, her heels or whatever, clicking, and like she started barking and ran after her, pulled me over, and basically I broke my foot. Anyway, so
You really broke your foot?
I didn't go to the doctor, but it was evident that it was like there was a severe tear, there was swelling. It was pretty bad. So I ended up getting like an air cast off of Amazon. But I wasn't able to be mobile was the thing. So, and I missed work. This was a Sunday. Like I could not go to work that Monday. And because they get so many specimens, it was a problem. Although I called or whatever. And then when I came, because of the amount of swelling, I talked to Teladoc or whatever, like I had to keep the foot up. And so basically, my manager, he didn't really say anything, but he's like, I think you'd be better like in this other department. So they moved me to like newborn screening to be a microbiologist there. And it was the same thing, like, except it was more because I guess I don't know, there's a lot of babies being born. And so there's like hundreds of these tubes, and I had to do the same thing. And I did that for about a week. And, I got this call. They're like, we have ended your assignment. And I was like,
They were done with you.
Yeah, basically. And I had this cast, and it was so sad. I'm like hobbling. But basically, I'm a perfectionist. And so I didn't want to make a mistake and miss a birthday or whatever, because I feel like that looks bad too. So I went incredibly slow processing these specimens. And the day before,
And they don't care about you being a perfectionist. They just want it done.
Yeah.
They want you to get through the masses.
yeah, the day before, like one of my coworkers who's been doing this for a tragically long time was like, so, I mean, do you want to do this forever? I was like, no, not really. He's like, you really need to get faster. You've been doing this for about 4 weeks, which obviously isn't a long time. He's like, you should really be faster. They might let you go. And I was like, okay. And so I didn't know this was like a major key alert or anything, but like 24 hours later, like they're like, yeah, you're done. So I was very sad, and I just came home and cried a little and hung out with the dogs. And anyway, my agent called me. He's like, hey, I have a better assignment for you. It's like data entry. And I was like, no. I was like, give it a shot. I think, anyway, you can start on Monday. And so I'm glad, because like when I first got that opportunity to go to St. Stephen's, immediately I said, no, I don't want to go to a boarding school, but it turned out to be beautiful. So I was like, no, I don't want to do data entry. Like, what is that? And then I show up and it's amazing. Like I have my own office.
Oh, wow.
In downtown Austin. And like and so it's basically, and it's independent thought. It's not like I'm actually I really don't know what data entry is, but I'm assuming most people that do it, they're just typing stuff. But I actually have these reports, and I did so well that they put me on the TDCJ team. So now I'm 50% of the team that does TDCJ. And so I have to look through these medical reports, and that really, this whole experience has really touched my heart because, you see people that may have gone or gotten involved with criminal justice at age 17 and they get like a life sentence. So now they're 55, which isn't old, my mom is older than that. But they have all these health conditions. They have hypertension, they have type 2 diabetes, they have enlarged prostate, they have double amputations. And it's crazy how hard you think, okay, you're sitting, you get to work out, you get to just chill with your friends all day, but they're also under constant stress and anxiety, and it wreaks havoc on their health. So this is a project that I've really, taken to heart, and it helped me realize, okay, like in my medical practice, like I think I want to do correctional managed care, because all the forms that I read, they're completed by prison doctors. And I think it would be cool because I feel like a lot of people that, grow up without parents or in a single parent household, and definitely in foster care, they're like an elevated risk. They're like the main people you see going to prison. And so it's
they're super stressed out as a child, right? And you can't, I can't imagine how that impacts their adult life. And then, especially because of that increased risk, right? Increased risk to wind up in an unfavorable situation. That's going to press even more stress. And that's the vicious cycle that they're accustomed to since they were a child, and they feel like it's normal. However, like you said, it's wreaking havoc on their health. And I think that's so ironic that you wound up going to law school and now you're being veered back. It's like everything is converging for you at some point. Everything happens for a reason. Right. And it's okay. Have those sad moments where you have to grieve the loss of a job that wasn't a fit for you. But you are you're getting closer and closer to what that passion is going to spiral into, like what you're kind of like your destiny, or what your passion is going to lead you to career-wise, and fulfilling your career wants, your what you want, how you feel good about your job and your career and what you're doing with your life. Would you agree?
I definitely agree. Yes. Yeah. That could have so easily been me.
Yeah. No.
This show is supported by Empower Financial, where we help you protect, grow, and build wealth through life insurance and retirement planning.
At a minimum, everyone, protect your family with at least 10 times your income in permanent life insurance. Have a safety net in case you become ill, or you can use the cash value in retirement as tax-free income. So reach out to us from our website at www.empowerfinanciallife.com or click the link in the show notes.
With me.
Yeah, no, I understand. So you want to give back to and study basically where you came from and how can you affect that population. That's what it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay, that's cool. I mean, that's amazing. And now you've been doing that for 6 months? How long have you been doing this for?
I've been with this team since early June. So I don't know. How many months is that? Like 2? Yeah.
Okay, so it's only been a couple months. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's great. I mean, everything happens for a reason. So when one door closes, another one opens, and it could be way better than that other door, because it sounds like you absolutely hated what you were doing, and it wasn't a fit because your team was even saying like, this is not a fit for her. It just wasn't a fit. You aren't efficient enough. You care too much. Go do something that needs more care. That's what it sounds like. So in your position now, what are you out? Do people know that you are part of the LGBTQ community? How are your relationships at work? How does that all look?
So only one of my coworkers, consciously knows, because we've talked about it. But other than that, no, it's not something that I advertise. I'm not like closeted, but I guess maybe part of it's because I'm not seeing anyone, so I'm not like, oh, my girlfriend, whatever.
Right.
But I mean, I think that a lot of people maybe assume that I am because I wear guys' clothes, and I have very short hair. But in the past, I have mentioned it to people with all those variables being in place, and they're like shocked, like, "Oh my God, I had no idea!" And I'm like, "Oh, so yeah."
Well, it's nice of them not to assume.
Yeah.
So did we actually talk about when did you come out exactly?
Oh, so okay. So I was living with my cousin. I had left St. Stephen's, the boarding school in Austin. I was going to a school in Houston, and I had like this huge crush on like one of my teachers, and I would come home every day after school and tell my cousin about her, and she was so annoyed. She's like, "Will you please stop telling me about this woman?" And I was like, and I was like, and I didn't even know that I liked her, but all my friends knew or whatever. And then I remember it was the first day, it was the last day of Thanksgiving, before Thanksgiving break. And this teacher always had like bus duty. So I remember sitting on the bus because I always looked for her because it was like good luck or whatever to see her before the bus pulled out. And I just remember like being like so sad because it was like a dreary day. And it's like, I'm not gonna see her for like a week. And then I got home, like, I'm writing in my journal and I'm so sad. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think I'm gay.
And how old are you?
I think I was 17.
Okay. And you had never before then thought about dating, girlfriend or boyfriend, anything like that?
It's kind of funny. So I had this huge crush on this man, but like I know he's like, I think it was more just like his lifestyle or whatever, because I've always wanted to be like in politics, and he was a member of like US Congress. And so I just thought it was like so cool, and like he has like the best like swag ever. So I feel like he kind of helped me like up my style game or whatever. But no, I mean for the most part, I think I was basically like asexual because like even like I'm at boarding school and everyone's like hooking up and dating. Like it literally like the thought never really even crossed my mind. Like I wasn't like a sexual being in any capacity, which is kind of sad.
No, it's not sad. I mean, everybody has their own path and their own timing, and so our I think our last interview, I don't think he started dating until he
30.
was 30 or in his
30.
late 20s or
Yeah.
something like that. So I mean, everybody has their own timeline, and they put other priorities first, or they're going through different things. Obviously your childhood wasn't what society looks at as the perfect childhood, or having that two-parent household or whatever the case may be. So there are other things there, right? And everybody has their own path. I strongly believe that there shouldn't be any type of rule book around anything. Like, who says you have to, have get married in 3 years from you start dating, or 5 years, or who says that you even have to get married? Who says that, you can move into together after, a year of whatever the case may be, or that you have to start dating by the time you're 20 or 18 or whatever the case may be. Everybody should design their own life. I'm big on life by design.
But
So
I totally get you with the whole, when people think you have a crush on a guy because you like their lifestyle or how they dress or whatever.
Yeah, Shan is in love with Omarion. So.
Oh God.
Oh,
Yeah.
Marion. Well, I'm gonna say he's like this tall, but you're like small too, so that's.
No, so I mean, I started my junior college career. I had a picture of a Morian in a frame, and it was nothing like, I wanted to date him or anything. It was just, I just really liked his swag. So, and I had long hair. I used to get my hair braided. I even got the eyebrow cut in high school, and then I got my ear pierced up here. It was like a whole infatuation with a Morian. It was kind of sad though, and that I think.
That's dope though. I mean, I was
infatuated with Omarion, but okay.
As a 34-year-old woman, I'm infatuated by Chris Brown. I mean, he is in.
What happened to Shamor Moore? You was like obsessed with Shamor Moore.
Oh, well, he's just not really famous. I mean, I guess he is. I don't know. But I don't know. Chris Brown, Shamor Moore, he's boring. I still watch his Instagrams and everything, but Chris Brown can dance and he has better swag, better fashion.
I love it. So you came out, you said 17 to yourself, basically. Like, this wasn't a grand gesture towards the world.
Yes.
Letting anyone in on your life. This was pretty much you admitting to yourself that, oh wow, well, I think I really like women. And so what about your family? Who's in your life at this point from your family, and what were their, hey,
This is Athena.
Athena?
Yes.
Oh, Athena, you're cute.
Yeah,
So what is your family looking like?
Good question. So there was a cousin that I lived with, and so she was, because we were living together, so she was along for like every step of the way. And so I remember, because I didn't drive until like my sophomore year at Sam, so I relied on her to take me to the pride parades or whatever. She'd drop me off, and I don't know, sometimes she was saying mean things like, I remember we were driving to a pride parade once and she was dropping me off and I said something was weird. I don't know what we're talking about. She's like, well, gay people are weird. And I was like, okay, but no, don't really have a lot of contact with my birth mom, although I do recall another unpleasant law school memory. She got my phone number at some point, I guess from my sister. So I'm studying in the law school library. It's so quiet you could hear a pin drop, and she calls, and so I answer. I'm like, hello, and she's like, something, you disgusting dyke, da 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 da. She's yelling so loud. She wasn't even on speakerphone, but anyone that was anywhere in the library could have heard her. So
wow. But why did she call you? What
so
that?
my mom is schizophrenic, so sometimes she just does stuff that makes no sense. I don't even because we weren't even really talking, at that point. So I just don't. I think that's probably why I answered, because I was like, oh, I wonder if this is an emergency, and
right.
Didn't that happen?
Right.
My sister, we talk almost every day, and as recently as last weekend, we got into it because she, there's this girl that I have a crush on or whatever. And so I have this guy friend that actually looks like Shamar Moore. And she's like, well, I think God would bless you more if you had a relationship with so-and-so than he would if you had a relationship with this girl, because at least it's opposite sex. And I was like, what do you mean he would bless
you more?
And she's like, well, God, I can't think of the word she used, but basically smiles more on heterosexual relationships than homosexual relationships. And that's what the Bible says. And so we were like going off of
Did you ask her what part of the Bible says that?
no. I was just like so mad. I was like, shut the fuck up. But like, anyway, but like, little things like that. And then that's basically comprises my family. So I would say no, not a lot of support there.
Right. No support, but they know. But and you, it seems like the closest family you have is your sister. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And do you think your relationship with your sister has improved over time?
I think so, because looking back, so I had a younger sister who committed suicide in 2016. So before all that, like I maybe would go like 6 months before talking to my sister or she calling me or whatever. But now we talk like every day. So I definitely feel like since 2016, our relationship has grown more strong.
Is that the same sister that was supposed to go on that TV show?
It
We
is.
have to talk about that because that was. Let's talk about that experience. So
Yes. But yeah.
that's the same sister?
That is the same sister, which, wait, did you say let's talk about it or do not talk about that experience?
Well, we can talk about it.
Okay, yeah, I'm kind of deaf. But yeah, it is. I thought about it. I was like, man, like, that's like really messed up. And people like would be like, aren't you dead or something? And, my friend that actually went would be like, no, I'm not dead. But anyway, so it's just kind of like, it's crazy. I don't know. But yeah, I think that my sister and we have a pretty good relationship for the most part.
And did all of your siblings have a similar childhood? I don't know if you want to get into. No. Was there any reason that y'all found why your sister committed suicide, or?
Well, so I mean, I don't mind talking about it. I was shaking my head no because like they had very different childhoods.
Okay.
Like they all grew up with my mom, and my mom was not a very stable person, so they went basically through a series of homeless shelters and living in cars, and it was pretty terrible. Now, my sister that took her life was the youngest of us, of the four, and she was, I don't want to say spoiled, that sounds like such an ugly word, but she was very adored by my mom. And so, like, she had 2 children by 21. The youngest one was 4 to 6 months old when she passed away. I just felt like, maybe she didn't have a lot of support, like, from my mom and her dad, and that just weighed on her a lot, because she's raising 2 kids by this guy. The day that happened, which was her father's birthday, she had a custody hearing for the children, and the father basically denied that they were his children and that the child's grandfather was actually their father, and it was all very devastating to her. So she went straight from the courthouse, and that happened. But all of my siblings have had very, people say, and maybe sometimes I think that my life is difficult, but their lives are exponentially difficult compared to mine. And it's very sad.
Right. No, I completely understand. And that just brings me to conversation about, mental health, right? So how could us as human beings be more supportive for those that, might be going through something and, contemplating taking their life, especially someone, I mean, she had kids and, a whole lot. How could we help the next person that's going through something so devastating? I don't know if you've thought about that any, but I've never gone through something like that. I've never had someone that, I guess, close in, whether it be by blood, because I don't know, were y'all close in a relationship, like as sisters, or?
Well, I hate to say not really, but not really because she was so much younger than me. Like
Right.
I was 30 and she was 20, so we're like 10 years apart. But
Right.
I mean, for my other sister, like, of course, I always heard about her and they were always together when I was calling. So, I mean, she wasn't like a stranger, but
Right.
definitely not as close as she was with my sister and that I am with the middle sister.
Hmm. So, what do you think that we could do as human beings to be more supportive to our friends, our families, the people that surround us, and just help them, especially in the LGBTQ community? There is a pretty high rate of suicide, especially now with COVID. A lot of people are being forced to move back home where they're uncomfortable, where they're judged, where they're almost being terrorized to some extent, I'm sure, and they're feeling really uncomfortable. So what do you believe, especially having gone through that we could do for others?
Um, I definitely feel like being kind and being there, like devoting. People say put your money where your mouth is, or sorry, money where, yeah, that is how it goes. Money where your mouth is.
Yes, yes.
Like, but I think you should definitely put your time because money is expendable. Like you can
Right.
borrow money and have it back, but you don't get time back. So if you know someone is having a hard time, like spend time with them, like take them out. Don't, because I've had hard times and it seems like it never fails where it's like, I'll call someone to talk or I'll text someone and they won't pick up. And then they won't text back for like 3 days later. And I feel like, you know, I make a conscious effort if someone calls me or texts me that I don't regularly hear from, I always pick up because I don't know what is going on,
What their
And
need is. Yeah, I love that. I understand.
but time I feel like is the greatest gift that anyone could give someone. So time I feel like is my love language. So yeah, that's what I would suggest.
No, I really love that you said that, for a few reasons, and one of them being just, um, and thank you for being so open and honest about this, because I'm really big on, and Shen and I talk about this all the time, about building our circle, right? Building our network, building our environment with the people that we want there, who are supportive, who will be there for us, who are our cheerleaders, and making sure we reciprocate that support, and if a relationship or a friendship or whatever the case may be, if it's not serving a higher and greater purpose, then what's the value of it being there? Especially in some of those really unhealthy relationships where someone's always giving and someone's always taking advantage, or whatever the case may be, or you're not feeling like anything's being reciprocated. Like, build your circle so that you have the support system. We are, maybe not when we're kids, but as adults, we have so much more control over who we spend time with, how much time we spend with them, and who we build as our support system. And so, we just have to find those people, attract those people, and keep them, so that we create our own support system, especially, for someone who didn't have that support system coming into this world, right? It can be very, very difficult. And I'm sure there are a lot of people who go through something like that where they didn't and still don't have that support system. And so, just like you didn't necessarily, I'm not sure what you did to build it. So you went to that, the group home, Girls Haven, and you built relationships with the board, with the people who open doors for you. Like, that is amazing. You built that support system some way, somehow. And, I don't think anything is by accident.
Yeah.
We walk on certain paths, and everybody has, maybe not fair chances or opportunity, but everybody has very similar circumstances when it comes to who we encounter and what we control of how we get in front of those things, right? So how we encounter them. And it could be just the difference of being open versus closed. If you're closed, you're not going to see that opportunity or build that relationship, or take advantage of that opportunity to be your best self and walk into a different path of life. But if you're open, then you can see it, and you can process it, and you can learn from it. You can walk into it openly and, change your life and start molding into where you want to be. So I love that you're so open about that, because that's where I feel like I am in my life right now. It's all about keeping the people in my life and reciprocating however I can and improving on that, right? Because it's always a journey. We're not going to be perfect, but building on that. And that's how I want to live my life, because you're right. Time is precious. That's something we're never going to get back. So why shouldn't I spend time with all the people and the things and the experiences that make me truly happy and fulfilled? And that's where I think we should all be aiming to be. Like, what is fulfilling to you? So.
Yeah. And so for, anybody that's listening to this, that's struggling, just, even if you're struggling with mental health, fight through those thoughts and connect yourself with people that's gonna, genuinely be there for you when you need them to be there. And so, so if you're out there, you're listening, just take heed to that, and, reach out to us. We'll be that safe place for you if you need us to be.
Yeah.
And so Tiff, also too, I realized a lot of my friends over the years, I've kind of disconnected. And sometimes I think I went through my own mental health, situations of depression and anxiety. And so kind of disconnected myself. But I believe things appear in your life to show you that you need to get back on track with connecting those relationships. So the fact that we're even having this conversation right now shows me what I need to work on with, anybody in my life right now, and then friends that I did have, back in the day, that I really treasure their relationships. So, yeah.
Oh, look at y'all reconnecting. I just love it.
Yeah, so.
Okay, well.
But one thing about Tiff and I, like, we might not talk every day. We could go years without talking, but,
You just pick up where you left off.
Yeah, somehow something happens where I'll, either she'll see a post of mine and she'll comment, or I see something of hers and I'll comment. So I feel like we've always had that type of relationship. So
yeah, we'll get closer.
Yeah.
Y'all are not that far away from each other.
We're grown now.
Okay, so now we're gonna, I think we're like probably way over time, but we're gonna get into our wrap-up questions, and we ask these questions to everyone we have on. So it's 5 questions. Shan will start, and we'll wrap up.
All right, Tiff. What would you say is your best money habit?
My best money habit. My best money habit is being frugal. And I am freakishly good at it. From cars.
Even buying all your clothes and
She has
keeping
expensive
yourself.
taste. That's one thing I know about Tiff.
Yeah, but is it that you shop sales, or do you just not spend on a whole bunch of other things so that you can get the nicer things that you like?
Oh, yeah, I definitely never pay full price. I don't. To me, it wouldn't even make sense if I neglected, things just to pay full price on other things. So I always, I just find it's very few things that I pay full price for. And that I don't really shop sales, because I used to do that. When I was much younger, I would buy something like, oh, it's on sale, but it would be something ugly, and I wouldn't really.
Right.
But I find different ways, there's different discount codes online. I'll wait till that becomes available. Like my monitors, there were these monitors that I wanted so much when I was in school, but they were like $1,000 a piece. And so now I'm going back to find these, and they're still relevant today because the technology was so far ahead. I think I found one for $200, one for $280, and one for $50, which is the one that you can't see it, but it's the one that I'm using the camera.
Like monitors? That's super cheap.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Hopefully I won't jinx myself, but the one that I only paid $50 for, and they're all the same. The guy said that it had an issue where it would flicker on and off, but we've been talking for over an hour and that has not happened. So yeah, that, and also cars. people assume that my cars are like $60,000 cars, and maybe they were at one point, but that's not what I paid. So I think that's really funny.
You
Do
still
you buy
haven't-
used?
Oh,
Yes, they're both pre-owned, but like I bought one with like almost 100,000 miles on it, but it was like immaculately like conditions. And so I've driven like an additional 50,000 miles, and people assume that it's like a brand new car. They're like, wow, like, and I was like, this is like a 2011 truck, right? And they're like, are you serious? Because I mean, yeah, physically.
Do you buy used luxury cars that are higher mileage but in excellent condition, excellent care? That's pretty much your strategy there. Is that right?
Well, so this is like a pickup truck. I probably wouldn't advise anyone to buy a higher mileage like luxury car, but I think I bought a BMW and it had like 50,000 miles on it, so it was still under warranty. And then I bought an extended warranty, but I probably wouldn't tell anyone to buy a 100,000 mile BMW. But if you're getting like a Ford pickup truck or something diesel, those cars can go to well over 500,000 miles. So yeah.
Oh, okay. So you have diesel. I've never had a car with diesel, or I've thought about it. I have a Jetta, and Volkswagen, I think they've been well known to have diesel versions of their cars. I know now diesel is so common. Is there a particular reason why diesel vehicles can go to 500,000 miles?
Yes, so they're set up differently. And so to clarify, I have a gas F-150, but those other trucks like the F-250s and Super Duties and diesels, they do go longer because they're not a combustion engine. The oil, it basically runs, diesel fuel is like an oil. It's not a gas, it's not combustion. So it's lubricated better. There's not as much wear and tear on the internal components of the engine. And that's why they're used for things like towing, like tractor trailers or
Right.
diesel. Like,
Wow, I didn't know that. Maybe we need to. Shan totaled her car back in February. We haven't replaced it yet, but maybe we need to consider something like that.
But I want a Jeep.
Hey, it helped us save quite a bit of money. It was just good timing because she did it. The car got totaled in February, and then COVID hit, so we didn't get to replace the car before COVID hit. And since we're at home most of the time, we don't need a second car, so we're saving on car payment and on insurance. So once things go back to that new normal and we need a second car, then we probably start looking. But we're saving tons of money not having that second car. Everything happens for a reason. Like it's crazy. But
She won't let me get a Jeep.
No. It's not about not letting her. I told her that we have to set goals in order to treat ourselves. So I don't remember what I told her. Maybe I told her like when she has X amount of cash, in invested for retirement, then she can go and get it. Or, I try to attach like milestones to those treats, those unnecessary treats, because nobody needs a $60,000 Jeep. Like that's crazy. That's just insane.
Yeah, and buy it. So I'm looking for a Jeep also at the moment. Like you can find perfect. I mean, 60. Don't buy new. It's like a rip.
Well, she's just so picky. I guarantee you, any used Jeep that's going to be out there, she's going to be like, "Oh, that looks cheap," or "Oh, that just." She's so picky, and so if she wants a new Jeep, she can have it just after we hit X milestones of this amount in retirement and this amount of income coming in. That's fair, right? Isn't that fair? It's not a no.
I might die tomorrow.
You might, but at least I wouldn't inherit a Jeep. So.
I say life's short. Buy a reasonably priced Jeep.
Yeah.
The frugal Jeep.
Amen. After you.
All right. Well, when I go looking, I'm gonna come to Austin so you can help me figure it out.
Yay.
Okay, so what does self-care mean to you?
Wow, self-care for me means 3 things. Sorry, my animals are making weird noises. Someone has a hairball. Oh well, we'll just pretend that didn't happen. Okay, three things. For one, getting a proper amount of rest. I sleep at least 8 hours a night, most nights. That's very important. Most important one, I should have started with exercise. I like to ride my bike and I like to walk. My goal is to walk 2 miles twice a day. So once in the morning and then once in the evening when it's not as hot. And then the third thing is being careful about what I put into my body. So I don't eat fast food. Like if I'm going to eat out, which really I don't. I like to cook. I use like this thing called Imperfect Grocery. So I get a lot of fresh
Oh
produce.
my gosh, I've been looking that up. I've been thinking about ordering Imperfect Foods or Misfits, like a little box, so to motivate me to cook more like vegetarian heavy meals or just vegetarian meals,
Is it
period.
kind of like what your friend had?
No, it's just it's a box of imperfect vegetables that don't wind up at the grocery
okay.
store.
It's really not imperfect. I mean, it's called that. The only imperfect things I get are like there's like a bag of broken pretzel pieces covered in chocolate. Occasionally, I'll get a carrot that's like a Siamese twin carrot. But
Right, like it's not what you typically see sometimes, but I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's not all it doesn't imperfect to your standards. It doesn't seem like it, but yeah, I've been looking into that. How have you been enjoying that?
I enjoy it a lot. It's so funny. We have this thing in Austin called Boss Babes. I don't know if it's specifically like lesbian or not. I feel like it is, but I feel like it might not be. But it's like
It's probably a mix.
oh yeah, it's like a group, and they have like these events. Anyway, I went to one, and it had like this little sign-ups for different stuff, and I was like, "What is imperfect foods?" Because usually I don't like to be sold things, but I was curious about this. And so I signed up and I didn't use it, until the pandemic. And this was only like 2 weeks before. So I was like, oh, maybe I should do this. So unless I just forget to order, which I'm just remembering because the deadline is 12 o'clock on Sundays. I've been getting it like every single like week, and it's really good. I'm very pleased.
Oh, that's awesome.
Back to
And
you.
I saw that I went on there. I saw that it has like like you can select maybe fish or chicken. Like if you want a meat or something like that, they can provide that as well as an add-on price. I have to send me your referral code in case I go with that one. I don't know if we will, but I do want to try something out. Shan more like she wants to try out something that is like comes with like a recipe and all the things you need to make it. That's what she wants
And I'm
to
still
try.
adjusting to this healthy eating because, all my life I just ate fast food, especially when I was teaching. So I'm adjusting. So she's changing a lot about me, which is not bad.
Good. Yeah. Just fast food. If I do feel like I need to eat out, I make sure that I can identify everything that's in there. So I get poke, which is like sushi in a bowl, or I get sushi.
I've never had that, but yeah.
It's really good. Or I'll do chipotle because I know it's chicken, it's guac, it's not, something battered.
Right.
I know what the contents
Pretty
are.
much distinguish it. Yeah, I mean
But we're doing better with the
we're doing better.
food
And don't get me wrong,
COVID.
I'm not as clean as you. You seem like an extremely clean eater. You're exercising. But I just try to, I think one of the keys to transitioning to cleaner eating is to substitute for something that, you're so used to eating. So like, for example, Shan just went and picked up frozen cauliflower rice, so that we can, instead of eating rice, and I'm not big on rice, so I'm good with like quinoa, couscous. I love that. But all the people with texture issues, my daughter included, they may be like, ooh, what is that? So, or I'll do just, steamed fresh bags of vegetables. We have tons of those in the freezer. So if we make like a main course dish, like chicken or whatever the case may be, then it's easy to just grab a bag of vegetables or two, pop it in the microwave, and then we can toss it in some like olive oil and salt, pepper, and some seasonings, right? So we'll try to just make it easy, but to substitute. But I'm good without the rice. Like I'm good. But a lot of people can't overcome that, So it's just.
Oh yeah, my sister. We go round and round trying to get her to. change her lifestyle, and it's hard for her to branch out and try new things.
Yeah, and I tell people to just baby step it. Start with something really small. And for example, baby stepping could mean maybe you took like 2 heaping spoonfuls of rice before. Let's downgrade that to just 1, instead, and add some vegetables. So whatever your favorite vegetable is, just try to do that, baby step it in that way, and then eventually you can hopefully scale back enough to get used to the taste and texture of vegetables and enjoy it, because how you feel afterwards it can be amazing. And there are a lot of great ways to cook vegetables that taste amazing. Do you follow, what's her name?
We gotta get to the next question, because I know you get passionate about this type of stuff.
Aww.
Want to keep talking about it?
Yeah, I do, but it's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, no, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I know we like 2 hours almost.
No, we're not. We started at 10:15.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Talk about Tabitha.
Nope.
Okay. We'll talk about it off camera.
Yeah, feel free to
All
shoot
right.
an email or that.
All right. Next question. What advice would you give to someone in the LGBTQ plus community that wants to advance in their career or level up in their business?
I would say, so while I don't actively do a business anymore, when I was working in sales, just definitely communicating, don't be shy, because I was a pretty shy person, not an extrovert by any means, although I am outgoing, but just putting yourself out there, because you might get rejected, but it's very, important that you make those connections. It doesn't have to be during the 8 to 5 working hours, or in my case, the 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. working hours. You can go to different happy hours. I love going to Chamber of Commerce events, things like that, to build your client base. As far as the career, it depends on what they want to do. I've been seeing a lot of articles saying we shouldn't tell every single person to go to college. And I think there's truth in that. So yes, if you want to be a physician, I would say it's important to have as great of grades as possible, and to make sure you're getting immersed. If you can't do shadowing because it's a pandemic, watch ER, watch Nurse Jackie, get familiar with the terminologies and the signaling pathways, do research, things like that. There's Coursera, there's Khan Academy. If you don't want to do that, there's definitely trade schools. Working at BMW, we had excellent mechanics, and those are legit, you get flown all over the place. Any trips that I got flown to, there's generally a mechanic sitting next to me, because it's great when we launch these new vehicles, but somebody has to fix this new technology, and They make excellent salaries. So just figuring out what you want, and then researching the paths that are to get there. Although it may seem overwhelming, it's typically less challenging than you might think once you actually look at it and you're like, oh, I can do this.
Okay, awesome. I love that. Do you have a favorite book or podcast that you listen to?
Yeah, my favorite podcast is This American Life. I discovered them on accident. I was at Sam Houston. Actually, I graduated, but I would go with the outdoors group on different ski trips. And so they were playing that in our van. I was like, well, what am I listening to? Ira Glass. But they're so funny. And recently, with recent events, I've been listening again at work. They're so educational. There's just so much to learn. I really like This American Life. As far as books, I don't read a lot. I guess the only book I find myself going back to read again is I usually have one nearby and I don't. It's a physiology book by Laura Lee Sherwood. Yeah, I like that.
Okay, cool.
All right, last question. What do you like to do in your spare time?
Wow, okay. So I love the outdoors. I love cars. And one of the beautiful things about living in Austin is I live very close to the only Formula One track in North America, Circuit of the Americas. So I go there whenever I can for either cars and coffee, or to see like the Formula One. So I was like so close to Lewis Hamilton last November when he came to race. I was at the SRO GT race, which was like 10 days before the pandemic came. I love motorsports and I love cars.
Let us know the next time you're going. My mom, she lives in Del Valley.
Oh,
So she always, I think we can like hear it from there or something when they are doing like races and stuff like that. I feel like I've heard it before. But anyways, I know nothing about these things. And I think that, you know, Shannon and I have been talking a lot about, or maybe I've just been, you know, I talk a lot. So I've been talking a lot about the fact that I feel like I'm not into anything really like sports or like extracurricular type activities to take enjoyment in. And so
she has a passion about just educating people, like
well, I do,
financially. So that's her passion.
That is my passion, but that's work.
Work,
so
yeah.
so what am I doing? Like I was thinking maybe I need to go back and take up tennis again or dancing again. Last night we watched Black is King.
The lesbian tennis group, right? Isn't it a tennis group?
I think that's what Jack said.
Yeah.
So last night we watched Black is King, that Beyonce visual album. And, you know, it featured a lot of African artists. And I was like, man, you know, I used to do, you know, tap, ballet, jazz when I was, you know, a child or teenager. So maybe I need to find like an African dancing course, or now is obviously not the ideal time for that, but maybe I can do like outdoor tennis or, you know, go see some
YouTube
drag races or whatever the case may be. So let us know when you're going out there so we can
Of course.
get educated by you on all things racing, all things cars.
We can turn the living room into a dance studio.
I don't yeah, definitely. Well, I'm gonna videotape you dancing.
I can't dance. Alrighty. All right, Tiff. If you want to, you can tell our audience how they can get in touch with you. If you know, maybe you want to advance your career, and hopefully we have that type of network listening, and or
just people reaching out to show you some love, or just to connect and follow, see what you're doing, what you're up to, maybe social media. It could be anything.
Yeah, so I'm very active on Instagram, and my Instagram handle is Texas, TEXAS, spelled out, _ Senator, SENATOR. Is my Instagram, and my email is Tiffany, TIFFANY .Jackson, JACKSON @ like Mike E like echo.com.
You've had that email forever.
I have, and people still are surprised. They're like, what is me.com? I'm like, obviously it's Apple, but yeah.
Okay, well, Tiffany, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you again for being so honest, open, you know, helping us on our mission to help educate and inspire whoever we can out there who needs a helping hand, who needs somebody to relate to, who needs something to kind of listen to, get motivated, or even just learn some more about different careers or different paths in life. So we really look forward to seeing you flourish in your now epidemiology route. And of course, we will see you next time.
Thanks for watching.
Like, subscribe, and share the video to your friends. In the comment section down below, write how good the video was.
And if you're listening to the podcast, make sure to hit a 5-star review.
Bye.